Hello and welcome to My Minefield with me, Dime David. Today we're joined with Rosemary, where she'll be sharing her experiences of her divorce and the things that you've had to navigate during the process of decoupling. Welcome, Rosemary.
Thank you.
First of all, to give a bit of a point of reference, how long ago was your separation divorce and how long was the actual marriage as well?
The marriage was 12 years and we started the process in 2016 and he moved out in 2017. Took about a year to kind of wrap things up.
And did you go down the route of, did you have to go down the route of solicitors and courts, or was it more amicable along those lines?
I was really lucky that it was a really amicable divorce. It took some time to convince him that the marriage was over. I wanted to minimise disruption and upset to him, but also predominantly my kids, who were 7 and 9 at the time, I think.
Right. If we just rewind a little bit, if you, obviously, you told us about the length of the marriage, did you have preconceptions of how your marriage or even life might play out, other based on maybe family's experience or external experiences before going into the marriage itself?
I definitely had a biological clock ticking,
right.
And I wanted definitely to get married, but I wanted more than anything to become a mum. And I think I'd had a relationship before Peter, who I married, and I thought that one was the one. And so I was really keen to find someone. That sounds really awful. But I was kind of ready. I was in that frame of mind. I was looking to kind of settle down and have children, so I was more open to it at that point.
Do you think, you said it's interesting, you're keen to be a mum, do you think those were external pressures, maybe from other friend groups, or, you know, I don't know, were there actually external pressures driving that effectively, did you think, or was it yourself?
Me, 100%. I always just wanted to be a mum before I wanted to be a success in business or anything like that. I just couldn't wait to be a mum right from birth, almost. I always had strong maternal instincts and, was really looking forward to that stage in my life. But I can't deny that, I was swept up in the timing, as in all my other friends were doing, were getting married and engaged at that time. So everyone starts looking at their relationships and thinking,
where do I stand? Where do I fit? Kind of thing.
Is he the one?
Could he? Maybe, kind of thing. So you've got, obviously, we've jumped around a little bit, but effectively, so you've had a 12, 13-year marriage. You've gone through a year, effectively, which, again, in the scheme of things, quite quick separation, obviously, maybe because it's quite amicable.
Yeah.
You said you didn't have any preconceptions, obviously, and you've explained that. But if you actually look at what was for you, what was the primary cause of effectively your divorce, would you say?
I think, knowing what I know now, I think women change quite a lot when they go down the route of having children. And I only know this looking back now, but I think my driver for, looking forward to getting married was the fact that he ticked a lot of boxes and I was looking forward to having children, and, we had a good relationship.
Okay. And then during the separation, what was your biggest fear, your biggest challenge that you thought, or that you had to navigate during that effectively?
There was no reason for our divorce other than the fact I felt like I said it so many times, the boyfriend-girlfriend bit of our relationship was done. But I've forgotten the question. Sorry.
No, effectively,
I think I started answering something else.
No, but it's actually good that you did that, because you said the boyfriend-girlfriend bit of our relationship was done, and I think that's really important because obviously when you have the children, the dynamics change massively. I think it does from a relationship. Did you have any conversations during that where you thought that it could be workable, or you had it in your mind that was maybe he wasn't the right one to grow old with or be cohabit with?
Definitely that, but it was 4 years from first mentioning that perhaps I couldn't see us being together in 40 years to actually sort of pushing forward with the actual divorce.
Right, and can I ask why that length of time?
Because I guess you have to sort of try and make it work, because no one wants to be a statistic. I didn't imagine my life, not being married or getting a divorce. And I think when I first mentioned it, I thought maybe I was depressed, maybe I was overtired, overworked, maybe it was financial pressures, which always put a pressure on a relationship. I was prepared to try other things. I joined a book club, a running club, all these things to sort of try and improve my sense of happiness and fulfillment. But I was quite lonely and scared that I felt so strongly that our marriage was over. So it was a shame. I didn't want to do it. And I didn't want to hurt anyone. But also at the same time, if I am feeling that it wasn't working, then actually it's wrong for me and maybe for the family unit to sit in something that wasn't working.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, because we've had other guests on the show where effectively, there's a stigma, as you said, like a statistic, where it's or can almost be seen as a failure if you're going through the separation divorce. But in actual fact, I think if you flip that thinking, actually go, well, in actual fact, it could be a win. It could be a win for the kids. It could be a win for individuals. It could be, and I think the thing is that if you're actually like comfortable with yourself and you can accommodate it and then effectively accept it, I think it can actually be a real positive, rather than actually being that we've doomed, we failed. Another statistic. I think there is a much better way of looking at it, a much more positive way of looking at it. Going back to the original question, which was, what would you say actually going through the process of separation, divorce, was the biggest challenge that you had to face, or effectively, to overcome effectively? What was your biggest fear, for argument's sake?
That it would be acrimonious. Right. And so it was really important to me that we were both on the same page, so then it could be amicable. Because there wasn't actually a reason for the divorce, like there was no affair, no violence or anything like that. It was just, I just felt it was done, and we were young enough to potentially have another full-on relationship in our lifetime. But if we hung around, we were too young to really. Some people batten down the hatches and just lead separate lives and maybe have separate bedrooms. But I just felt, in early 40s, that was a real shame.
Yeah. And obviously, you have children, and you said about obviously being a mum. And I think, do you have any conversations? Were you concerned about that side of the family unit? Or how does it work now with your ex-partner and access to the children, and how does that work effectively?
We have a very good relationship. He lives locally. He got together pretty much immediately. He moved out with someone very local. In fact, they lived 2 doors down from me for 2 years, which was, which I hated at the time. But then, of course, it was convenient. I'm really lucky that because there was no acrimonious situation, we just kept the focus towards the children. And I think we both felt that was important. And although we had some heated discussions, and I think in the early days he said, I'll get the kids in the house and you'll live in a bedsit down the road, and, just because he was hurting. But in the end he said to me, I don't want to be married to someone that doesn't want to be married to me, so let's do this as amicably as possible. So...
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I think, again, and it's interesting how that, and again, in other episodes we've had people that have gone through some much stronger conflict, and I think there definitely is a way for it to be amicable, and hopefully some like the viewers, they can relate to that, and the fact that it doesn't have to be this I've got to win at all costs kind of thing. It's interesting to hear you say that there were some arguments, and obviously there is emotion that's come into it, but I think there's also a lot of fear about finances as well, and where am I going to end up? And am I going to be in a bedsit with 2 kids, or am I going to be, who's going to take all the money? And I think there is a lot of concern around that as well.
Yeah, the financial implications, obviously money is really divisive, and it causes a lot of problems in the first place. But it was more a case of us pooling our resources and finding out if we could run 2 households rather than taking him to the cleaners.
Yes. Yes, it were. Yeah. So obviously it's great that you've got this amicable setup. How do you go about like the co-parenting, and has that come with any additional challenges along the way? Or? Well,
I was his second marriage, so I saw, the mistakes the first ex-wife made, and he said, I'll just choose my fights. So with her, so I was really determined to be as accommodating as possible, because if the boot was on the other foot, we didn't have anything set out by the courts. We just loosely said they'll go to you every Wednesday and alternate weekends. But of course, if him and his girlfriend were going away, fiancé, and they want to change a weekend, of course I would accommodate that.
Yeah.
In the same way that if I I had plans, he would cover me, because do as you would be done by. I've always tried to be as supportive as possible. I've always got presents from the children to give him for his birthday, and also for Father's Day, and vice versa. And I think that's great for the children. The children need to know that it's not their fault. They're not responsible. It's nothing to do with them. In fact, my exact words when we told them the information that we were getting divorced is, I know it sounds strange now, but in a few weeks' time, it'll become our new normal. You'll just have 2 homes. And of course they chimed in, and 2 presents, 2 holidays.
Yeah, as they do.
Yeah. So I think because we were both sure at that point how to move forward, it was okay. But there's no point in one of us, the party that doesn't want to get divorced, dragging their heels and making things difficult. Although that is a temptation, because people are hurt, they don't want it, they think maybe you could try, maybe you could do this. But I think he accepted it.
Do you think, again, obviously, do you think he accepted it more because he'd already been through it once and had a much better understanding of the process before? Maybe that, but I think he just felt, what does the future hold if he was going to try? We tried for 4 years. It'd come up more than once, not every weekend. Yeah.
But, there'd be times when it would just get discussed, and and I was scared. I was scared of being on my own, and in the end I had to think, I'm definitely going to be happier on my own than I am in my marriage. And that was quite a difficult realization to come to. There are no guarantees that you will meet anyone else.
No.
He took some convincing, actually, that also my want for a divorce wasn't because I'd met somebody else, and I hadn't.
So he was almost like trying to find a cause for the actual action. A reason. Yeah.
So that was difficult to me, because I really didn't want to hurt his feelings, but I knew more than anything, I knew I had to go through with it. But I just said, be as kind as possible, and as fair as possible. Let's just do this together, and I'll support. I think
it's a really, again, it's really good. Again, I find it interesting. So you've obviously highlighted that wasn't for you, and you obviously thought that you didn't want to do that till walking down the beach 80 with an ice cream each and all the rest of it. That wasn't the right one for you. What would you? So what would you? So effectively, what you don't want. So what do you think it is that you do want? Because obviously,
well, now with hindsight, of course, I can see all the all the wrong reasons that my marriage wasn't potentially a good idea. But that's the same with any relationship or any situation. With knowledge and experience, looking back and all that stuff. I think that. Oh God, I'm really sorry, I've forgotten the question again. I feel like I've digressed.
That's no problem. So what I was saying was that effectively you kind of established, obviously, with the divorce, what you didn't want. What is it you think that you do want?
Now?
Yes, now.
I think that it's very important to have someone who makes you laugh. I mean, I hate the word banter, but someone that really you can sort of sit on the sofa and really laugh with.
Yeah.
It's not about box ticking, about comes from a nice family, is kind. All of that is important as well. But unless you have that initial sort of desire and chemistry and connection with someone on an emotional and physical level, it's not necessarily a recipe for success. Although I could tell you on paper, why I loved my husband and why we were getting married, and it felt like all the right reasons, but it was missing something. Now I can see, and I thought practically that was enough, because if we were good friends and we got on well, I thought that would be enough. But when I changed so much after children, it was difficult to get things back on track.
You say obviously, and again, I think it's really interesting. You say changing, and again, obviously, part of the marriage in lots of cases does involve you start off as a 2 and you can become a 3, 4, or 5. In some cases, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. But I think it's really interesting. And again, if you're happy to discuss it, it's like you said, you've changed. Post children.
Yeah.
Would you say that was more mentally, effectively, or with your wants and desires, or where you saw the relationship going?
It wasn't his fault, but my desire to become a mother was so strong that my husband ticked all the boxes in order to do that.
Right.
And then the moment we had the children, we're sort of living the rest of our life, I realised that actually we didn't have that much in common. He was kind and we got on well.
Yeah.
But I just felt something was missing. And I think he could sense it as well, but no one wants to be a statistic, so you just keep
You
going.
almost like push it under the carpet. Or try and work on certain bits.
Yeah.
We'll have a laugh today and see how that goes, kind of thing. Yeah.
So, and I think guys are pretty stable. I don't think they do change through becoming fathers. I mean, in my experience with him, and so in the end, we were on a different page.
Right. And from there, like I said, if you're fundamentally on a different page, then it's going to be very, very difficult for. But again, I think it must be like, applauded effectively. I think, and that you can do it amicably, and there's not that finger pointing, blame game, and all the rest of it. I think that's very good. Support. What did you do? You've mentioned earlier on that you were scared of maybe like being alone. Did you have much support from family or friends? Did you seek any support professionally going through the process or post the process effectively at all?
We went to Relate
right
in the lead up before actually sort of downloading any documentation. In terms of a support network.
Yes, so yeah, I mean, obviously, again, a support network, as in, for argument's sake, some people obviously confide in friends, some people confide in family, some people don't want to share and seek professional, I'm not saying like therapies or whatever, but some people do go down that route as well, effectively, during the process, because it can be quite challenging, not just physically as well as mentally, effectively.
I didn't seek any professional help. I was having some counselling for something else at the time, and funnily enough, it came up about my marriage quite naturally, and that I realised the benefit, and actually that would be something I'd probably advise someone in the future. It was really nice to be able to tell one person every aspect to. You could be really, really honest, without fearing oversharing or indiscretion. You could sort of tell them everything, and they could sort of guide you and ask you all the right questions. So I knew it was something that either needed a massive overhaul, or someone needed to say, okay, yeah, you're done, but no one wants to call it. I didn't really. I knew that it was done, but I was worried about calling it without having tried hard enough.
Yeah. So effectively, you wanted to give it your best shot, but you probably subconsciously kind of knew that you reached a line in the sand where it probably wasn't going to progress.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I didn't want our divorce to be because I'd had an affair or he'd had an affair. Then it does get, it gets more nasty and problematic.
It can get a lot more messy, can't it? Because the thing is that then people start contributing blame to individuals and all the rest of it, and subsequently then the finances can get an awful lot more possessive, shall we say, as a result of that.
And someone said to me once, a way to work out in your head if it's over, if you imagine them with someone else, how does that make you feel? And I said that would make me happy, because it would mean he'd found someone else that maybe was giving him more than I was emotionally in that way. And so when we were filling in our paperwork, we had a hilarious conversation. I said, we printed it off the internet, and I said, I was just desperate for you to come home and say, I'm having an affair with Ella with the big tits from the office, or something like that. And he said, I didn't want to have an affair. And then, so we sort of had laugh at the ridiculousness of it. But I was ready to move on, but I didn't want that to damage our marriage.
No, which I think
divorce,
again
actually
shows a lot of sincerity, because I think it's interesting again, like even when you're saying that, which is, like I said, you kind of like wished you'd had this affair with, but I think it's really interesting because it obviously shows again a thought process that you desperately didn't want to hurt him, but you also wanted it out.
Yeah,
and I think again, like from a human nature, I think that's really, really interesting how. Which I think this can be to be commended, is that you haven't gone off and had an affair, and almost let that be the catalyst for what you wanted to achieve, and the fact that I think it shows a really like empathetic kind of like way of expressing yourself. I think that's really good. So you've gone for the divorce.
Yeah,
you're done. Is there light at the end of the tunnel? You said effectively we have touched on it a little bit. You knew what you didn't want. Would you say life's been better post-divorce than it was in the marriage?
In terms of my happiness, yes, because I got some control back in my life, and I was, I was definitely happier. I thought that I would have more boyfriends, but that sort of didn't happen, and I didn't want to just have casual relationships with people. I did a bit of internet dating, didn't like that. But actually, I just filled my life with sort of exercise, and I had lots of friends, and I had a big group of single friends, and we did stuff together and went out together, and also I still carried on my life as I had done when I was married. So I still entertain the same people that I did when I was married, but because I really didn't want to be excluded from things just because I was on my own either.
Yeah.
So I worked quite hard at sort of entertaining, inviting people over still, even though I was on my own, to sort of show people that I was happy and okay. And
I think that's a really good, again, it's interesting, it's a really good awareness, because something that I found is that when you do lots of things as couples and do that kind of hosting thing, or on that circuit, as it were, is that people quite often take a side, and unless you like really project yourself into events, you can be. It's like people. I'm not saying it is the case, but people go, "Oh, what do we do? Where does he sit? Seating plans? How's it going to work? Is he going to start cracking on to my wife or my husband and so and so?" And I think there's a lot of a lot that goes on. There's almost like an uncomfortableness that people don't want to address around single people.
Yeah, definitely. I can remember once a really good friend's husband came up to me and says, "Can you stop making divorce look like such a bloody good option?" Because, I was so much happier. So, you had to be careful who I spoke to, because it does make people feel insecure. But I was very open about the reasons for it. And, I was determined that we would be good friends and both co-parent our children, which is so far what we've managed to achieve.
Just one thing you said just a minute ago, I'd like to, if it's okay, just to touch on it. You said about you did a little bit of like internet dating.
Oh, yeah.
What was your, should we say, dislike to it not to continue down that route? Because obviously it's very, very popular out there at the moment. People think it's can be a quick fix. I personally found it very, very like transactional almost kind of thing and it's very, very almost shallow, and you can portray something that you're not. But I'd really like to know what your reasons for not pursuing that.
Well, I got divorced at a similar time to a good friend.
Right.
She had got married really early at 19, and so she had been in a long-term relationship. So when she got divorced at a similar time to me, she wanted to go out and date and have fun.
Yes.
I had fun in my 20s, so by the time I got married, I sort of had got that part of my life out of my system. So I didn't want to just go out on dates and, to have a whole series of flings. That wasn't what I was looking for. But I did sort of blame myself at the time. I thought it was, I don't drink. So I was thinking at the time, it's because I'm a bit boring, I don't drink. And as I don't fancy anyone and no one fancies me. And I'm just sort of a bit doom and gloom about it. And she had so much success with it. But I just realised now, again, looking back, that we had different needs. It wasn't having fun and going and having transactional times with people that what I was looking for. I was just looking to have chemistry and, and fun with someone, but not transactional, transient fun. I just wanted to find more of a kindred spirit,
like a deeper connection rather than what a lot of internet dating can bring, which is effectively. It's not saying it's fake. Obviously, lots of people have a lot of success on it, but I just think that, so I understand, you're trying to find a much deeper, in-depth connection where you're still having the same kind of fun and getting to know someone at the same time.
Yeah,
more grounded, more all-encompassing of a person rather than it being just.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have when they've come through divorce and they've come out of a long-term relationship. They have an idea if they want this type of guy and this type of job with this type of looks. I was never like that. I never have been like that. So I didn't have a type.
Right.
And actually the people I've had long-term relationships with, if you put them all in a room together, they'd all be completely different. Different backgrounds, different looks, different professions, heights. Yeah. So I was kind of just open. I always used to joke that I'm more likely to reverse into someone in a Waitrose car park than I am, and meet someone that way than I am kind of sitting across the table with someone I know nothing about who's saying, "What do you like doing in your spare time?" or trying to have a conversation, get to know each other, when actually there's no chemistry. You've just looked at a photograph of someone, they've presented what they think are their best points. I just think it just didn't sort of really work for me. A friend of mine also said, she's American, she said, "You gotta date like it's your job." Which is one, so it's like six coffees a week. You go bam, bam, bam. Most of them you'll never want to see again, but there may be one, it's a numbers game. You'll meet someone who you do click with. But that sounded like hugely hard work. My children were young at the time. And then other people say, it'll happen when you're least expecting it. So which one is it? So I was just prepared to do a bit of everything. I would go to the opening of an envelope. I went to anything I was invited to. I was always driving to London and seeing people for drinks. Not because you never know who might be there, but just to keep my my eyes open and to keep up with people. I was worried about being not ostracized, but people would sort of forget I was there because I wasn't in a relationship.
But I also think that helps as well. And you may agree or not, from a point of confidence, because the thing is, if you get out of, if you do, and again, I think this is more maybe again, I'm not, but from a female perspective, if you just become focused solely on kids and don't go out into those environments, they can become a lot more daunting when you then decide to try and get involved in them. Would you agree with that? Or
yeah, I can remember when I met a particular friend who lived locally, and he said, "Oh, you got to come out in Oxford and do this. Got to be going to this piano bar. We're all meeting, and sort of getting involved in social activity." I was thinking, "Oh wow, got to," it really felt like foreign to get, rally and get up and go into Oxford. And sometimes you didn't really feel like it, but you never regretted it. It was always a laugh. Yeah. You don't have to stay all night. Just go in there, see some people, and have an exit plan. Most of the time, it was really fun. It was like learning how to be your younger self again.
Yeah. But with a slightly wiser head.
Wiser head, different outlook. I was worried about being bored, lonely, without friends. So I just found a newish group of friends. A lot of them were quite a lot younger than me, but we just went out and had a laugh. But that all calmed down eventually, and I just saw the people I wanted to see rather than sort of going out on a big gaggle.
Okay. Going on to the next question. If you had the wisdom that you have now, and especially like with dating and everything we discussed, what would you give your younger self? What piece of advice would you give your younger self? Maybe embarking on a relationship or potentially marriage, and what key point would you or key points would you like to give yourself based on the experience that you've gained going through everything you've gone through regarding marriage and relationships?
Take your time to get to know someone. Try to ignore what your mates are doing. It's really difficult because you do sort of feel that pressure, like, is he the one? Oh, is it serious? When you're sort of in your 20s, people start having those conversations. And make sure someone makes you laugh. You really get on well with someone. If you are on a desert island, do you have enough to talk about, and do you laugh? I just don't think I laughed enough, in my marriage. But I was forging ahead, having children, getting married.
Do you think, and on that point, I think it's interesting. Do you think that, again, on a much wider scale, it's because when we're younger, there is so much focus on those key, like, pinnacle points of life where it's like that you do forget. And I can remember when I was 18, 19, 18, I think we have rose-tinted glasses about our childhood and teenage years. But it is because there aren't the responsibilities, and there is so much fun in and around it that, actual fact, it's nice to get married and it's great to start families, but there's not always the massive fun times that turn into more snippets. I found, was that something that you would agree with? That
inside a marriage, the fun times turn into snippets?
Yes, I think they become, because it is hard work. It's hard work when you have sleepless nights. It's hard work with the finances. It's hard work, trying to. When you've met the person when you met your husband, there was just you and him, and it's like, this works and this is great, and this is exciting. Then you start throwing a kid in and maybe another kid, and then the dynamics start changing, and you're still trying to work, and you're still trying to maybe get a bigger house, and you're still trying to, you've got these external pressures that are coming from you everywhere, and fun becomes a less bigger segment of life than it was before when it was just the two of you.
Yeah, so it's the drudgery of bills, of tiredness, of sharing responsibility. Who's going to put the bins out? The less sort of romantic side of marriage.
Yes.
But that sort of wasn't really a problem for us because we both kind of did as much as we both did our fair share, kept it even. Yeah. But financial pressure was a big thing, and I think it's really. I've spoken to people about it recently that. You're exhausted. You've been at home all day with the baby. They come in from work, and you're like, take the baby. And you're like, oh, I've been at work all day. I'm exhausted as well. It's like the sort of competition. Who's
Top
more
trumps.
tired? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm exhausted. I'd do anything to go to an office. I'd do anything to be at home with my daughter. Those types of conversations. So it is hard. You learn a lot about your inner resolve. But I did feel definitely tested mentally. And in the early days, being a mother, I can remember my first child was a couple of weeks old. I can remember ringing my mum saying, it's quite boring. I mean, I'm definitely happy, but they don't do much. And I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah, were you expecting like backflips and like some kind of...
it was hard work, and it was repetitive. I had moments of happiness, but I became paranoid as well. That hoped I was enjoying it as much as I should be. I became paranoid about that, about being a mother. But we had a good co-parenting relationship right from the outset. He is and continues to be a really good dad.
Yeah, just again, I think again, that's, again, for the sake of the view, I think it's really, really interesting. Is that when you've just said about, was I doing the right thing as a mother, and what did I expect too much? I mean, so what? Before you went, obviously you've emphasised how important it was to be a mother.
Yeah.
Do you think that? How did you gauge it against maybe your experience with your mother or whatever? Did you expect too much, or did you expect different things that actually materialised from being a mum?
I don't think I expected different things. I think I was desperate to become a mother, and then I became a mother, and then was it harder work? The sleep deprivation is a big thing. I think that's a lot of pressure on people. And I can remember saying to a cousin, my first child was about 6 months in a baby seat, saying, "Oh, I can't wait till she gets to being about 1 and she can start talking and stuff." And she was like, "Oh my goodness, they don't talk till much later than 1." I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
I sort of hadn't read enough books about it. I was like, "Yeah, this will be fine. I'll just go with it." Yeah.
Okay, and so I think that's. So from what you're saying is that the advice you'd give is make sure you have lots of fun. Yeah.
Definitely.
Laugh lots.
Yeah.
Maybe not take life too over seriously.
Before you get married.
Well, and even I think, why should, I suppose another question, why should marriage stop those things happening?
Because then you're just with one person. And if you haven't gone out and had some fun and had a few different sorts of relationships, I mean, this is a very personal thing, because some people just think, "Oh, I've met the one and that's the one." But then also seeing other people go through divorce who sort of married their childhood sweetheart who didn't go out. And I was living in London at the time, partying, who haven't sort of done that. Then they somehow feel that they've missed out, and that's what they do when they get divorced. But it's a spectrum.
Yes, but I think I may have slightly given the wrong end of the stick. So from your perspective, the summary effectively was the advice that you would obviously look at. We said what would you want now is that someone that would make you laugh, that you have.
Right.
Yes. So if you could just re-emphasise what you were saying, because it was my fault. We went slightly off piste.
Oh, was it? So. We do that, don't we?
I do. Yeah.
Knowing what I know now, I would think it was important to feel an emotional, physical and personal connection to someone you really. I do think laughter is really, really important. It's not all about box ticking, about the other things that I felt were important, like nice family, really loves me, we get on well, we don't argue. I think it's just, you've got to feel that that rush of excitement. And I think, well, for me it was physical, emotional, and mental. I think that's really important, and you don't have to rush things. Take time to get to know each other. We ended up living together sort of accidentally because of an accident of circumstances. I think that was a mistake, because I think that should have been a conscious decision to sort of decide to move in together. But actually, we learned a lot about each other in that time, and I thought we had all the workings of what would be a really great marriage, and it was great for ages. It was never actually awful. It's just the sinking feeling of is this it? For the rest of my life, is this it? And that's what didn't sit well with me.
Well, I think that's probably more the laughter and the good times is a positive place to conclude today's episode. Thank you ever so much, Rosemary, for sharing your experiences. We will be back in the next episode. Please do like, share and follow, and please watch the next episode of My Minefield.